All right, Gregory, let's finish off your list here. What you got?
I'm gonna throw in a movie too. I'm gonna throw in a movie, and this is gonna be one where I'm going to say I actually want it done completely over, beginning to end, same premise, just totally done over. Nightbreed.
Ah, awesome.
Whoa, deep
Yeah,
cut.
Woo!
yeah. I want them to completely remake Nightbreed because
Saw that in movie theater.
Me
um
too.
yeah. And no, I didn't. No, I didn't see that movie theater.
Okay.
I was gonna say I just love the idea. I love the idea. I love the idea of these, underground creatures and what they can represent. And with the special effects, the acting are just awful. They're just awful, like unwatchable at some time.
Unwatchable.
And it's not like Hellraiser, whereas I kind of want to put Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2 on that list too, because, touch up those special effects, send everybody to an acting class. But like we said before, that's when you start messing with the soup and things can go wrong. I'm going to say straight out a complete and total remake of Nightbreed.
Did you happen to see the director's cut? I saw that a couple months ago.
I did a long time ago, and it doesn't totally save it.
No, it's just it's more bad special effects. It's just
Yeah.
it's like a couple extra minutes of really bad special effects.
It doesn't save it. I think Clive Barker definitely added a lot around that time. Yeah, like there was no one making horror movies like the things that were coming out of Clive Barker's mind. But at the same time, this one lands flat, but it deserves a total remake. So I'm going with Nightbreed.
I love it. I'm even going to take it the step further that I'd love to see it remade, and that I'd love to see the sequel that was just hanging there at the end. Because even I won't know if I agree with you, especially upon looking back at it, that it doesn't hold up very well. But I really liked it when I saw it in the theater, and I wanted that sequel. I wanted to see like this idea of these creatures and this, and seeing life from the monster's point of view and how they've been hunted and terrorized, which of course with Barker, to my knowledge, he's part of the LGBTQ community, making that a metaphor there as well. And he was the first, and I remember that in the 80s, because he was putting in guys kissing each other, right? Which to my crew, which used to, drop epithet, homophobic epithets without that was a greeting as we walked up to each other. That was how we said hello to each other in the morning. That was constantly it. I even still have trouble acknowledging the Q in that litany of letters I put out there, because growing up here in Massachusetts, queer was not something you wanted to identify with. And I feel bad saying it still, because I'm like, I still feel like I'm throwing out an insult, because we did it so much as an insult. But getting back to Barker, he had that in his books. Yeah. And it was really interesting because you had a bunch of guys who, some of whom most of us outgrew it. There are still a couple I'm not so sure of as they grew up, who were definitely not okay with it, but yet were still fascinated and wanted to read the guy's books and wanted to see the movies. So that, to me, that's a powerful piece of writing.
Absolutely.
Have some homophobic kids in the 80s who are, fascinated and still wanted to see your work. So good pick on that. Good on you. All right. Yeah. 3 o'clock.
Once again, I'm going to I have to push back on the acting. We have to pay attention to what the movie is and what they're being called to do. You can't always be expecting people to show up giving you Oscar-worthy acting for a movie that is Nightbreed. Like, I mean, we're gonna attack Craig Schaefer like that. We're gonna do that. We're gonna attack him like that.
You see, but I disagree, because there's a way. Because here it comes, gentlemen. Here it comes. Let me silence the people with this. No one nails a perfect acting performance that is over the top like the illustrious, the gift.
Don't you do
Bruce Campbell.
Oh, that is so
nails it.
Oh my God.
Nails it.
Nails
I am not And I'm
Yeah.
That's
not
like saying my
that
favorite
I
ice
just-
cream flavor is chocolate. I mean, you just go for the low hanging
No, I will
fruit.
stand up.
No.
I will flip tables for Bruce Campbell. All right. I'm
Yeah.
going down to the mat. All right. I will take you on, Rashawn. I will take you on. And I'm
Yeah, but
bringing
wait,
I'm
before-
fighting
before
both
you
of you
go
guys
there-
on that. That is such a hipster pick.
No, before you go there, first of all, we're talking about a man. We're not talking about, acting chops. We're not talking about somebody who
No.
can, deliver King Lear with pathos. We're talking about a guy who was, in these kitschy horror movies. But
Yes.
when he delivers those lines, it's pitch perfect camp,
Yep.
but so much where you still care about the conflict. And that's the thing. You have to deliver it so that even though it's camp, I still care about the conflict. So if you're going to master it, you've mastered it when I still care what happens.
Man-made Evil Dead.
Everything, Bruce Campbell, and everything that people say about him, he's been living off of from Army of Darkness. No one gave a shit about Bruce Campbell before it. Don't lie. We all were alive.
He'd be the first to tell you you're right. He's made Bubba Hotep. He made They
Bubba
Call Me
Hotep.
Bruce, for Christ's sake, making jokes about the very thing you just said. And he participated and really added to the show Burn Notice, which was a great show that I enjoyed watching for many seasons. So even making Army of Darkness references once in a while in there, right? Even
I love Bruce Campbell. I do.
All right.
But to say he is the pinnacle is, well, also, by the way, in this episode, shitting on Nick Cage is a very, very bold leap to make.
Not at all.
And by the way, I would argue that Nightbreed did have a sequel. It was called Little Monsters.
Oh, God.
What was it called?
Little Monsters. That's the sequel to Nightbreed.
Oh, God. All right.
Okay, sure. Why not?
All right. Let's finish up your list, Rashawn. I know you're taking a victory lap over there with Little Monsters, but
You know I'm right.
all
right. So I have so many on this list. I'm just gonna throw them out real fast just to say that they were there. So Saturn 3, I would love a complete. I'm with you as far as complete remake. I want to see that.
Nice.
Believe it or not, I know a lot of sci-fi guys are gonna come at me like this, but don't lie. You fall asleep while you're watching this movie. 2001: Space Odyssey. Let's see if 3001. Give me like what we would think 1,000 years out in the same way Kubrick did. That's what I want to see. Just real fast. Commando. Believe it or not, I would not mind seeing a remake of Commando. Throw some realism in there. I don't care. Or give me a guy who can walk around with too many guns in his hands. I don't give a shit. Give me a guy who can drop out of an airplane and land and keep going. I don't care. Give me a guy who can flip a Porsche. I'm all for it. Give me a guy who says, you said you're going to kill me last, and he turns around and says, I lied. I mean, give me all of it. Matter of fact, if you can give me Bill Duke back, I'm for it. I mean, I don't even care. All that, I'm going to say, what I'm really going to focus on from my last entry is every alien movie after Aliens. I just say, just wash it out. Let's all just give us the Men in Black freaking Flash. We don't know about it. It didn't exist. And that includes, which kind of holds up when you rewatch it, Prometheus. Not a bad movie when you rewatch it. Covenant and the other shit. Just all of it wipes out. Just we don't know it. Maybe they go what they should have done, closer to the comic, closer to what was being mapped out, which is give us what actually is happening on Earth. They sort of talk about it in Resurrection, which funny enough is similar to how we were talking about. I was just listening to one of our episodes and we were talking about the Warriors and how at the end it's basically like you go through all this just to get home and be like, shit, I did this to get here. This isn't much of a rescue. Funny enough, Aliens 4 Resurrection is sort of the Warriors, but from the Aliens tent. Because at the end of it, the whole thing is all the protagonists, they're completely like, hey, we survived, but guess what? We're on autopilot to Earth. And they're like, fuck, we would have been better off with the aliens. So there's a little bit of world building there, but still, every movie after Aliens, just wipe them out, redo them, call it a day.
there's no way. I mean, I need the Men in Black. When it came to Alien Resurrection to it, I had high hopes for, and it ended with Mama, Mama. Like I'm like, you gave me an albino alien going around trying to nurse on Sigourney Weaver, which okay, all right, I know I don't kink shame, but
literally the last 10 seconds of that movie is the best, and it's what I just talked about, is when they realize that autopilot is bringing them to Earth, and the doom on their face is worse than what they were facing with the aliens. That to me is like, that's the story. That's where we need to go. Why are we focusing on the same other shit?
Yeah, give you that. You know, there's some
things
there. And
I mean, considering that the only one that's even almost, it's almost like Terminator and Terminator 2 again. The only one that's respected is the sequel, which is so different from the first one. You almost don't even call it that. And then the third one is just so fucking off the wall and totally in a different direction that you can't even put it together. So, yeah, that wouldn't break my heart.
And the third one's not bad.
On 2001: A Space Odyssey, but I think the rest of them, yeah, I could live with that.
You got Josh.
I'm in somewhat trouble. I mean, I had kicked around Aliens and things. Actually, I kind of went on the maybe we don't need to do Alien and Predator anymore. That was on my let's not visit it anymore, only because there've been some. Things just kept getting so much worse and worse. I was sort of like, let's just get Alien and Aliens, and then just let's somehow do some kind of Stalinist, wiping out of history. Family Guy reference when they goes to, you ever see the one where Brian goes on vacation in Germany and the tour's like, and that is all that's happened in Germany. He's like, you left out everything on this tour between 1929 and 1945. Nothing happens. We were on vacation. The entire country of Germany was on vacation. Yeah, that's kind of what I want to do with that right now. So, when it comes to Aliens, I'm gonna get my wish on this. So I'm hoping it works out well, but I'm glad that they're finally remaking Dune. Always an ambitious project.
I'm gonna call it from cheap sheets. I'm a cheap seats. We have to be prepared for that movie to suck. It's
one of those ones that I've always wanted to see done right. I gotta be honest. I didn't hate the Lynch version. It's interesting. Lynch was a visual guide to the books, quite honestly.
Right. A lot of the problem is the books are so visual and expansive.
Yes. So visually expansive. So there was that, and I think
Does anybody remember the miniseries on the Sci-Fi Channel?
That was what I
remember. Didn't watch it, but I heard it was actually pretty decent.
It was. I was
totally going to get to that actually was one of the, so far actually was my favorite make so far, and maybe too. That's what it needs. There was the only thing was, and it's an aesthetic thing. I just didn't like the Sardaukar Death Troopers. They were a little too Ren Fair for me. They had these big puffy Renaissance Fair shoulders. And these are supposed to be the Navy SEALs, whatever you want to call them. Just that, they're death troopers, they're the SS of the Imperium, and they're so badass. And like I said, they just looked a little like, I just wasn't feeling it. I just wasn't feeling the aesthetic. I know that I'm sure. And I have friends who have done costume work and have been stitchers and stuff. So maybe they're not happy with me right now. But that's thus far has been the one, and I am interested to see what they do with it, because it's always been, when it ties together a lot of what we were talking about earlier when it came to the cartoons, the geopolitical, everything. Dune has always sort of stood at the center of that, right? The spice, the Middle East, the oil, the the idea of the unifying economic force that everyone in the universe is going to fight and die over continuously and endlessly over.
It's funny you go in that direction, Fink, because once again, I think you and I diverged on this sort of same thing with Star Wars. You go to the energy side of it, the oil side of it. I'm going to go to the other side of it, the nether side of it. It's fucking drugs, bro. It is
Oh,
always
that too.
about
Yeah,
drugs.
no, yeah, absolutely,
It is
absolutely,
always-
yes.
They